Hey, welcome back to my car shop. So I'm just sitting here pondering the way I'm going to fabricate the front piece of this and tie it all into this cross piece and the floor on the 70 Challenger project. So let's watch the show intro, and in 30 seconds we'll get into this and we'll start finishing up this part that we didn't finish in the last episode.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Cars Shop.
So yeah, I've spent a fair bit of time in the last couple of days just pondering how exactly I want to tie this in, and it's more than just replicating what the factory did, because I'm also thinking through what I'm going to do for attaching the subframe connectors that I'm going to make out of box tubing in here as well. So it's a little bit more complicated. The other thing that I've been pondering as well is how I'm going to be making torque boxes as well. This car has been pretty rusty. This frame rail is obviously very solid, and I'm very pleased with the way this is turning out, so I'm not concerned about the strength of anything that I've made here. But by the same token, it is going to be a big block car. So am I so concerned that I'm going to go through and put a roll cage in it? Of course not. I don't see any reason to do that. This isn't a pro street car, although I did kind of have that moment of thinking, maybe I should have just tubbed this like I did the GTS. But that's another whole can of worms I don't really want to mess with. I'm trying to keep this simple and just kind of rebuild what had been done here. So let's just shut up and do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just too much talk. So the first things that I want to do here are to just trim back this metal here. It's pretty punky anyway, and I think I'm going to reinforce this here quite a bit. Partly because this is also where the subframe connector is going to be tying in. So I really don't want a good plate here between the rear frame rail and that subframe connector. So I'm going to go ahead and buzz off some of this sheet metal and give myself a room, and then we'll also at the same time be starting to trim this frame rail back to the proper depth to where I can flange out the front of it to weld to the floor pan here. And also on the bottom, there's a couple little things I'm going to have to do down there to get it to tie in. So a little step at a time here, but that's what we're going to do. That slurps. Blade pulled out of the saw, it didn't break. All good, be right back. Okay, so the saw is sheared off a roll pin, so I just fixed all of that. Oops, I forgot to put a part back in, but it'll be all right for now. Try again. Okay, I'll have to clean that up a bit more, but for now it's good. So the next thing now is I want to get this frame rail trimmed down about where it needs to be. Okay, so between the cutoff wheel and the Sawzall, I got it trimmed back about where it needs to be, and right now I'm just guesstimating where I want this flange to be. The flange is way too big, and I know that, but I'm going to leave the extra material now because it's easier to cut it off than it is to add it on. Not that you can't add it on, don't get me wrong, because you can, but so what I'm trying to do right now is just kind of create a flange like so that will kind of line up with the floor pan once we're further along here. Yeah, that'll be really easy now to trim that off where it needs to be once I have that in there. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult because I've still got a bunch of floor in the way here. I may have to trim a little, but we'll see how it goes. So again, I'm just guesstimating about where that needs to be. It can be dollied around wherever I want it. I think that's pretty close. Actually, I can't get my tool out of there, but it worked way better than I expected. So we'll figure out how to get that out of there. I got it pinched between the whole floor pan and the frame rail. There it goes. Okay. Okay, I'll bring you over here so you can see what I've got. This actually turned out pretty slick. There's a bunch more to do here, but I have a plan. So this is part of what I spent some time thinking about. I've got it bent back now and it's close, and the bottom of this frame here actually kind of hoops up to match the floor. So that's coming in time, but of course this is going to be trimmed way back to be similar to what the factory flange is. I'm not looking to duplicate it perfectly. That's not the point of this, because again, I'm wanting some extra material here because I'm going to plate this pretty heavily, either with a heavier piece of metal if I can find one around here, which I think I have, or I will be double layering it, which is just as good, so that this tacks on one side and then the plate for the subframe connector tacks good here on the other side. I need to look at the camera and not at what I'm doing. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, we're getting there now. So before I can cut this brace out, I want to make sure that I have things fairly stabilized in here. I don't really think this brace is doing anything, but again, better safe than sorry. I don't want to cut it out and have something move and then go whoops. So I think that's probably the next step, is to put a piece of plate in here and get this frame kind of tacked onto that. This is working out really well. And the nice thing about the way I'm going to do this, I got a little carried away with the hammer right there, but this piece comes forward and bends up to the floor so that I have that piece. I'm going to make the piece to go in here, but I'm not going to do the floor yet. So that will give me the opportunity to squeeze all of this together the way it needs to be squeezed together in here, to come up to match the floor pan. So that's going to work really well. It's kind of make it on the fly, but that's the way it's going to be. It's going to look good and it's going to work good, which is the main thing. One other thing that needs to happen, there is a brace that needs to go down in the frame here, because this is the main spring mount, and with the torsion and so forth that's on this, we don't want this frame to possibly crush. So there's a spacer that goes down in here that I need to weld in. I'll incorporate that with the weld here, so it'll be a piece that bends back, comes across and goes this way, and it'll be plug welded through from the outside here and the outside here. I'm going to do a step plug out here. So what that means is, well, the hole out here for the plug weld is that big. I'm going to drill through the frame rail with a bit of a smaller hole, and then I start right in the middle of that and work my way out and plug weld to that base, plug weld the frame rail in, and then out to that this big brace that's right here. Alright, so I kind of made a mistake when I cut this all the way down, but that's okay. I just bent this back now so I can start the piece that forms up into the floor here. I'm going to have to add some stuff in there and so forth, but that's fine. I may end up buzzing all of that out of there, but I'm a lot closer now. So now I'll bend up this piece that I was talking about here. So it'll be a couple of shapes that go this way, and then they come in this way, and then up, and then over. It's going to be extra large. Then I'll tack it in place. Then I'll be able to buzz this out of here. I'm also going to go ahead and trim these back a little bit while I'm at it. Yeah, this is going to work well. Alright, so we've got our piece of metal cut to fit in here. And I'll make sure you can see what I'm doing. And I'm using the factory edge off of the sheet metal here to match the factory edge up here where the inner and outer structures come together. So I'm just going to slip this up under there if I can, which I can. And that will give me some kind of an idea of, it's a little tight, but it'll go. Pot right there somewhere. But give me some kind of an idea where I need to form the first bend on it. Okay, I see there's a cap on this metal right here. Just a little burr. Maybe I cut it just a bit long, but I think it'll go. It's just being a little persnickety right now. That's why it's giving me fits. Something catching right there. Got it. It's just catching on the angle iron. Just take and bend this a little bit on that edge so that it kind of curves down. Then it shouldn't give me any more problems. There we go. Okay, so all I'm trying to do is just ballpark estimate where it needs to be down here to line up with the floor. And I can actually bend this right in place. This angle iron is actually going to work to my benefit. Kind of work as kind of a mini little pipe anvil kind of thing for me to be able to bend this down there. Okay, so it's in a little far. Still in a little far. Getting there. Once I get an idea where it needs to start to bend, it'll be easy to bend it up. Yeah, that's nice. A little blood never hurt anybody. I know I should be wearing gloves. I hate wearing gloves. There we go. That's perfect right there. So now I can bend this kind of in position. I'll clamp it down here, and then I can kind of bend it in position to get an idea where this curvature is going to be, pull it back out, form it nice, and make it so it fits. I'm very tactile and I hate wearing gloves, so I'll put up with cuts. Right, so I realized I had a bit of a compound curve in here that was giving me some fits also. So I'm going to trim this back a little bit once I'm sure I've got it pretty close to being right, which is about right there. And I'm going to trim back several inches here to make some room. That should give me a little breathing space. For those that want to know, I'm making this out of 20 gauge, which is pretty much the thickness of the floor pan from the factory. I thought about 18 gauge, but this is just a little easier to use. And I think I'm just going to plate this with a piece of 1/8 inch plate where I get to put the subframe connector on. Maybe you may not agree with that, what I'm doing, but don't care. This is what I'm doing. So. Alright, I'm also going to give myself a little more breathing space over here by angling this. Good. And I'm not sure exactly how that got bent like that, but we're going to straighten that back out a little bit. Doesn't work? We'll do something different. No big deal, it's just metal. It's a kitchen there somewhere. Not sure where. Right there on that corner. Alright, fine. It'll be that way. I'll shorten this up by about 1/2 inch. I think that will make my life a lot easier. I always cut the metal bigger than it needs to be. I can always trim it down just like I'm doing right now to make it fit. So. Pretty good. Real good. Okay. Okay. Now I want to figure out where that bottom bend is going to come the other way. Fill I need to do down here, but we'll be alright. good. No, it's not. It didn't bend where I wanted it to. It's bending down lower for some reason. I don't know why. Yep, that's what it needs to be. Go right in there. I'm going to just use this as kind of a jury-rigged metal brake right now to just rough this in. This may end up just being a template piece. We'll see. There we go. Okay, we'll straighten that out later on. Just want to get started. It's actually pretty good. All right, I'm going to go over and dolly this in place and get it kind of bent, roughed in shape. So I've got the piece kind of roughed in now. I'm not going to be attaching it up across the top, obviously, and I quite frankly don't think it quite lines up, and that's fine, I don't care. But what I want to do is get this trimmed back more here, and then get this so that I can, I don't know if I'm going to butt weld that in there. I don't think so. I think I want the extra rigidity of flange welding it, or else just, I think what I'll do is I'll plug it, and I'll see if I can flange this piece a little bit. Let me think about that a minute. All right, so off camera, not because I intended, just because I didn't get the camera back on for some reason, but off of camera, I had to go back in and bend this a little bit in here on the back side where that flange lines in. So there'll be just a couple, probably just one spot weld, maybe two in here on each side. I'm going to tack it here in a couple of spots and tack it here in a couple of spots, and then I can buzz this brace out of there and we can form it over the top. So good to go. I may change this. This is really, if this works for the final product, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. But I want to get this angle brace out of here, and I don't want to do that while this piece is open. So that's my reasoning for what I'm doing here. I can't really see up in here very well. But again, it's metal fab. So when I've got this tacked probably twice here, I'll feel comfortable enough to go ahead and buzz this angle brace out, and then we can see what we really have. Again, I want to encourage you, if you're doing fabricating, it's metal. If it doesn't work, weld onto it, add onto it, cut it out, whatever you need to do. It's not that big a deal. So, you know, you're not going to screw something up that you can't fix. You just want to minimize your screw up. And, you know, that's the beautiful thing about metal. All right, so once again, it's metal formed in place. It's a little rough, but it's a floor pan. I don't care. This is going to all be under the seat, and it's going to be covered with sound deadener and blah, blah, blah. And it's not that I'm making excuses for not doing quality work. It's just I'm not going to waste time going overboard on something that I don't need to. And I know that may sound crazy because most of you think I'm going overboard on doing the car this way anyway. But quite frankly, the amount of time that I have into making all of this, it's not a ton more than I would have had just replacing it. And as I said, I enjoy doing this. So where I can cut a corner like this, I will. I just need to tag that all in now. It's close, it's good. Was off just a little bit up in here, but I don't care about that. That's fine. We'll compensate for that when we get over here to the other side. Clamps down to the frame real nice. It's clamped to the front of the frame, so I can drill my spot weld holes through here to weld that up. And we're golden. I didn't do them yet because this frame still needs to pull over in here that way, and I want to make sure everything is exactly where I want it. So I will use my spot weld removal tool actually to drill through the way I want to and pop out a couple of coins and then weld it up the way I want. I'm still going to need to come down here to form this to come up into the floor the way it's supposed to. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I actually have another stub of a frame from a Challenger outside that I'll just make a pattern off of and put that on there and make it fit the way it's supposed to. So yeah, progress. Haven't done a door check in a while, so just checking the door gap, make sure nothing is moved, nothing is shifted. Looks great. Not a worry in the world, so probably was overkill using that angle iron brace in there, but complicated making the sheet metal a little bit that I wanted to do there, but lots of but. Better safe than sorry. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this in the video or not, but I'm going to try to show you the flex that's in the quarter panel here. So when I push down, if you watch, right up in here you can see it moving. It may not be available on video, like I said. So I finally figured out where that's coming from, and it wasn't the frame rail. That was bothering me because I thought originally that was coming out of the frame, but I spent some time out here the other evening messing around and really looking things over, and I wasn't sure that I was actually going to be able to do this by myself, but I was. If you watch down in here, you'll see where all of that flex is coming from. If you watch, this piece is moving in and out, and this is going up and down. It's because this down in here is all rotted out from the tail pan, so the body back is not connected to the back of the frame, and that's why that's flexing. So I don't know if you were able to see that or not. I'll do it again. Yeah, I think you can. And that's making that quarter panel buckle up there. So this is real easy to do. Again, having a frame jig or a chassis table would be nice, but I don't have that. So what I will do is put something across the trunk lid. The other side is solid, fortunately, so I have a reference point. And I will measure down from whatever goes across here, down to here, and be able to adjust this into the right position, which I think it pretty much is, but just to make sure that the body's not crooked on the frame that way. And then I'll be able to weld all of this up and put new metal in here, basically is what I'll do. So I will make an S. It'll be a piece that goes like this, down and this way to come in to attach to the trunk brace here, and then for the trunk floor to attach to. And that will fix all of it. And this back end will be solid. So it's a relief. I mean, I wasn't sweating it. I knew I'd figure it out eventually. It's just the more you spend time with something, the more you learn the intricate details of it. And I'm not sure I've seen this before on a car. I've had quarter panel flex before, but for different reasons. So, but it makes sense. This is very simple, and it's a simple fixing here. So no big deal. But I didn't want to cut that quarter panel off on this side to hang the new quarter panel on until I figured out why it was flexing, because the new one isn't going to be as heavy gauge as the factory was, even as rusty as this is, and so it was going to exaggerate the problem, and I knew there was something wrong in the chassis of the car. So now that I know what it is, simple fix. Fabrication is about adaptation, it really is. So I was just looking at the piece in there, and I've already decided that I'm going to go ahead and buzz that piece off the top. I know it's strong now because I have that plate across and it has an L on the bottom. So if there is any movement, that's going to stop it. And I will just put a new strip across the top and then metal form that edge in. It'll be a lot stronger than what I've got there anyway, and it'll line up good. Doesn't need to be done now. I'll do that when I move forward and get to the floor pans. So the next step now is I want to put that brace down in the frame where the spring perch is. Where the spring perch mounts, and get that welded up so we have that frame more solid on the front. So that'll be the next step, but I'm going to take a break, go get some lunch, and then we will be back after these messages from our sponsors. Something else I keep meaning to talk about, and I'm going to do this right now before I forget, because I've thought of it 3 times this morning already, and I keep forgetting to say anything. One of the comments that I heard was people weren't understanding why I didn't put the floor pans and the frame rails in at the same time. Simple. I hadn't made the floor pans yet. The floor pans are not going to be exactly factory. They will look somewhat factory, but remember I'm putting subframe connectors in. So I'm going to build the floor pans around the subframe rather than putting the floor pans in, cutting them back out. Doesn't make any sense to do it that way. So, if it was a good floor car, you make your subframe connectors and you cut the floor out, put it in, etc. I'm not doing that. The floor is all junk anyway, so I'm going to put the subframe connectors in first, cut all the floor out, and make the new floor pans. And I'll probably do the floor pans piece by piece. The other thing I wanted to mention is I think out in my scrap pile, I have the seat pans that go under the back seat, and I think they're in good shape. I've got to look at them. So that'll save me some time fabricating because I already have those. If they are in good shape, then I'll cut those out, piece those into what I have here, and that part will be done. But there will be plenty of other floor pan fabrication coming for sure. And I may take a break here at some point in this project in the next couple of episodes and just make one. Like maybe the floor pan that goes that won't work. I'll figure it out. Maybe a piece of trunk floor. I don't know. Anyway, we'll make a pan just because I enjoy that part, doing the bead rolling and stuff like that, and making a piece from scratch that looks pretty respectable to duplicating the factory. So, I just found a piece of scrap metal, which was actually a piece that I was doing some practice TIG welding on. You can see here and here and here. But I found a piece that's about, I think it's 3.5 by, yeah, I knew the dimensions, I did. 3.5 by 3.5, I guess. Yeah, so it's pretty much square. So what I'm going to do is cut that out, and what I'm doing is making that piece of brace that needs to go in the frame. So I'll get this cut out here with the cutoff wheel, and then we will get this bent up on the sheet metal brake and get it installed in the car. Okay, pardon the wonky camera angle, but I had to take and grind this down just a little bit so it'll fit down in there. And this is where it goes, right down in here like this. It's a little tight for some reason. It wasn't a second ago, but probably just some burrs from grinding. Here's a glove. Make my life a little bit safer. There we go. And it's still not quite going down in far enough, maybe. Let's grab a whacking device here and see what we can do. Yeah, it needs just a touch more, just because I want it to be down below that surface a little bit. So we'll go grind just about another 3/16 of an inch off, and it should be golden. All right, hopefully. Yep, that works good. So now what I need to do is go under here where the spot weld holes are and drill a couple of holes through, and then figure out where I need to drill the holes over here so that I can get this in there and get it tack welded in place, or plug welded in place. So that'll be the next step. Okay, good. Yeah, the one on the driver's side was a bit low, but it'll work. And I'm really happy with the way the one on the other side came in, where it came in. I'm just limited on where I can go on this side, so it is what it is. And I'm not going to bother drilling a spot weld hole on the top. I'll just weld it up inside the frame rail, so that should work good. Let's get this in position now. I suppose the question you might be asking is, if you don't know, was this a factory thing? And the answer is yes, this was. This is how the factory did it. So they had a piece in here, and I'm just replicating basically what they had done. So I'm just trying to kind of get it bent into place right now so that I can tack weld it, or not tack weld it, but just go ahead and weld it. And you notice that I'm pulling it over to the frame now. So this is why I didn't weld that in the other day, because I knew I had to make this piece yet, and I was just too tired to mess with it. So I will get the frame, make sure that this is tight to the spring perch mount, and get that welded through in all three places. And then we'll come on the inside and pull this frame together and get it welded to this box as well. So that will then attach the frame in a better fashion to the front, because it's not really attached up here, it's attached up there right now where the hoop comes down, but I purposely didn't attach it here yet. So it also looks like I need to pull it down just a little bit, so let's get another pair of vice grips to do that. Piece is welded in nicely, tagged along the top. Got a couple tag welds down inside, and you can see the spot welds where they came through. I am having a bit of an issue on the spot welds coming through in here, which doesn't surprise me. On that outside, it's tough to get in there, so I will probably go down that edge. Where's my finger? On the outside edge, I'll take you under there and show you. I put a spot there already to weld that to the frame as well, just for extra strength. That's kind of a crucial point there, so I'm a little concerned about that not being welded as much as I would like. The other thing you'll notice now is the frame is nice and even all the way up. So it was kind of wonky before, because it's a tin frame, that's what the factory made, and they flex around a little bit, but once you get them in place, they're good and strong. And of course, when you get these reinforcements, and this is the same kind of thing that's up here where I was talking about, where the spring perch or the spring bumper, axle stop, whatever it is, that's what's inside of the frame there as well. So I need to check in the back and make sure that there's not any more of those. I think that's the only two places. If you guys are aware of any more of those reinforcements in the frame than I am, bloop, 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 down in the comments, please just let me know. But I think those are the only two that I recall. I'll double check on another frame for sure, but 90% sure. Notice the other thing is that there's about 3/4 of an inch gap down below there between, I can't put my finger in there because it's hot, but between the bottom of that support and the bottom of the frame. That will allow any moisture that comes in there to drain by. I've still got to drill the drain holes down in the bottom of the frame here somewhere. I'll figure out where the best place for that is. I think it's going to be right down in here. I'll look at the other frame and see where the factory drain hole was. But anyway, so that way if any moisture does get in there, it has the opportunity to get out, and that's important, obviously. So got to shoot some high heat paint on that, get it covered up, and then probably blast it with some rust proofing as well. As I mentioned, I think I'm going to buzz this off and make a new piece to go. That will be the exact width. It's not just because of looks. I don't care that this is beat up, but I have this other piece, this whole piece of floor in here, I'm pretty sure, and I want to be able to match that up. And so I think it's going to be important to have those edges where they belong. Otherwise I'll be putting a little strip of metal in there, and I don't really want to do that. But the frame is now attached to the spring perch mount, or this, yeah, whatever the heck this thing is. This thingy bobby dooey here, it's attached to that. So I could actually probably maybe get that other piece of floor in here if I can get it. It was frozen to the ground. It's just sitting out in the junk pile. But if I can get it out of the ground and get it in here and evaluate, maybe we'll get that piece cut out to fit in here as well. I'm quite sure that there will be a little bit of patching up in here, and I don't care about that. But it might be kind of nice to have, I won't weld it in yet, but at least have the piece cut and set in place. So we'll see. So as mentioned, I was having a hard time getting in here because of where this is located, and I still need to peen this frame rail over a little bit, right up here. I did it down here, squeezed it and peened it, but I went ahead and welded it on the edge as well as in the spot weld hole. Looks like that one didn't quite get filled. I'll grind that down and do a better job on it, but it's holding it in place right now, and that's the main thing. The frame is at the correct height now, so this piece fits in there nicely. And so we're, yeah, it's a little bit bent down there, but I can peen that up just a little bit. But everything is in good shape and in place, so good to go. So I spent a little time just straightening this out. It was crooked. It's not quite tight against the bottom of the frame. What I'll do is I'll bring the floor jack or a bottle jack in here right on this edge and put pressure up on it when I'm going to weld that in place. And that'll be perfectly flat and perfectly good. So, good to go. I knew the frame rail was in the right place, but this was just because I took and reefed this down out of the way when I was taking the old frame out. It just got kind of distorted a little bit. So yeah, we're good. So again, I gotta pull the top of the frame over in here a little bit and peen this that way a little bit, but I think it's more about the peening than it is about the pulling, quite frankly. But just get that in place up in here. It's just out 3/16 of an inch or so. So that is no big deal at all. We'll get her in position. The frame is square, so all good, all good. Since I was about it, I just went ahead and welded it and ground it and made it pretty. Shot it with some rust treatment, so one less thing to do. I still haven't done the bottom. I will do that at some point. But that frame is permanently in the car now, and I want to show you one more thing here also. It's getting exciting. It's looking good. Wish the other side was this far along, but that'll come in a couple weeks. It'll be the next thing. So as I mentioned, I have a piece of frame here that will give me at least a template for what needs to happen down below. That one piece of the front of the frame that I still need to snip off. But also then I have the tub here that I'll probably am just going to reuse. It's in pretty good shape. We'll know better when I cut it out, but I'm thinking I'm just going to splice like right in here and just cut around and leave the tunnel that's in the car in the car. It's the same thing with this floor pan, which is for the driver's side or passenger side rear. I'm not 100% sure. I either am going to use this for a template or just use this on the one side and make one for the other side. I'm not sure. There's plenty of floor pans to make, so it's not even laziness, it's just expediency. I've got it. Why throw it in the scrap pile? It's in decent shape. I can cut it out of here, I can use it and make it work. So what's next? Obviously, look at all the debris in the air. Woo. Floating around. All that crap gets in my lungs. Anyway, you can't see any of that with the naked eye in here, so probably should wear a mask more than I do. Regardless, anyway, so the next thing then is to work on this frame rail. I may drop that shock cross member out of there. It's only welded on the ends. I got to look at it more closely, but I think it's just spot welded underneath. I don't even think it's spot welded up inside. If anybody knows, again, bloop down in the comment section. That would be good. I think it's just, if I can get up here, tag welded, spot welded up below and below. I'm sure John or one of you guys have probably put one of these in. It's a pretty common piece to replace because people do stupid crap like putting air shocks on these things, and those are made out of 18 gauge steel. They're not made to support the car, and they end up ripping the shock mounts out and making life fun. The other thing I'm gonna do, because I'm that kind of guy, is probably drill some access holes for the shocks up here to make it easier to change the shocks in the future, and then just a rubber plug. I know that's not factory, but my car, I can do what I want. And just be easier to be able to run an impact gun in there and go and put the shocks on and off. Not that I probably am ever going to, but you know, I just think about things like that, and it's so easy to do that why not do it? Also, just a brief comment for those that have been asking, if you're not on Instagram or Facebook. Yes, I've been using the TIG welder. I do not feel to the point yet that I want to use it on the Challenger project. But as I showed you on that piece of metal earlier, I have TIG welded some stuff together, butt welded pieces and so forth. Got myself up to speed on how to do it. I just got to get a little steadier hand and got to get a better pair of gloves. I'm having a hard time feeding fill rod. But the TIG is working well, and I'm working like a grade school kid with it right now, but I haven't used one since '95, as I said. So, but I'm getting back up to speed. Accomplished my list for the day. I'm happy. We got that frame in the front now. It's welded in. I went a little further with it than I might have been intending to originally, but I want to leave it at that point in case I need to make an adjustment on anything. But I think we're good. It looks good. So then that piece where it melds into the floor, I will do that probably when I do the floor itself. So at some point there, once I make a determination what I'm going to reuse off this piece of floor that I have from an e-body, we'll see. So I had mentioned about taking the shock cross member out. Again, if you guys have how that's attached, that would be great. I think it's just spot welds from the bottom. I don't think there's anything in on the sides because it's only there for the shocks. I know, I'm 90% sure it's not attached to the floor, but I've worked on e-bodies professionally in body shops and hot rod shops and so forth, but I've never done anything this extensive on an e-body. And you know, I did a lot of mechanical work on them, setting up 6-packs, and I did a bunch of work on a transmission for one, and I did some paint and body work, panel alignment, things like that. But as far as fabricating, I haven't been this deep in an e-body before. I've done B-bodies. I've had several B-bodies. This is my first E-body. A-bodies have always been my thing. I've probably had 50 or 60 A-bodies over the years. Every form. Demons, Darts, Dusters, Valiants, you name it, I've had them all. Even a couple of Barracudas a buddy of mine had that we worked on a lot, the A-body Barracudas. So, but this is my first E-body, so you know, I think this is a fun project. And again, I want to reiterate, like, just to beat a dead horse, I know I could buy frame rails, but I just want to go over, and I'm thinking about giving you kind of a cost estimate here on cost savings on what I'm doing. It's not all about saving money. That's not what this is about. It was a decision that I made when I got the car that I wanted to take on the challenge of the Challenger, right? I wanted to take on the challenge of hand fabricating as much as I could. Exterior panels, I'm probably not going to. I may do the door skin by hand, but I want to explain why I'm not doing quarter panels. This one doesn't really need a quarter, but I'm probably going to take it off to get inside anyway, and I'll just put a new quarter on because $150 rather than trying to make this one work and patch it up. It's got a few bad spots anyway, but I'm concerned about the inner wheel well. Anyway, big bunny trail there. In order to form the panels properly, I would need an English wheel because there are compound curves, and I don't have an English wheel. I could have an English wheel. I've looked at them several times. They take up a huge amount of shop space, and my intention at some point is to turn the room where Two Scoops is in the back room, to turn that into a full metal fab shop and have most of my like my bead roller and an English wheel and welders and all that stuff back there for doing panels and so forth. And I still would probably have room to store a car in there, but right now it's my engine storage and it's full of things like that. So anyway, all that to say, on this car, I'm not going to be doing, I'll be doing patching, but as far as making an entire quarter panel without an English wheel, I'm not going to be able to make those curves, even though I have planishing hammers and so forth. The accuracy of what I would need to bend compound curves is just not there. So, you know, if I have to cut a piece out of the roof to fix a couple spots up there, which I'm contemplating, there's a couple of dents that I'm just not totally sure on, although I've got some kind of sheet metal hacks I may try to fix a couple of those spots. Anyway, not being able to make those compound curves is an issue. So we don't want to do that, and for the price of the panels, I decided the cosmetic stuff, quarter panels, at least the quarter panels, I will probably, I already bought the one, I'll probably buy the one for this side. Door skin, I think I can do a half skin down on the bottom. I can probably get away with that. It's not a full panel. I can't find a door for this at a price that I'm willing to pay. I found one that was like $300 or $400 and it was as bad as what I got. So more coming on patches and stuff like that externally, but obviously the focus right now is to get the chassis work done on this car so we can get it back on its feet, get it rolled back, get the motor pulled out of it, and then decide whether or not I'm going to go ahead and put it on a rotisserie or not, or at least figure out a way, which I have, to flip it up on its side so I can access the bottom to, you know, at 54 years old, I'm just not crazy about flopping around on the floor anymore. So it's kind of hard on the old body on this cold cement. All right, shut up. Let's just get her done. So first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here on the channel. We're approaching 330 now, and I haven't looked yet today, but I know we were at like 327, 328. So we are almost a third of the way to our first goal on the channel, which is 1,000 subs. I know that we are approaching 2,000 watch hours on the channel now. That's awesome. There's so much here. You know, a lot of you are here because of the Challenger project, and I know that. But if there's things that I do on other projects. If you look at the 74 Swinger, Joe and I did a lot of hand fabrication on patches for wheel well and hanging the quarter panel on that car. Paint and body work. Look at the last 6 or 8 episodes on the 47 Ford where I am prepping and painting the front fenders on that car last spring, that actually was. We have mechanical work going on the 26 Oakland. I've got a bunch of stuff that I've done. We should have an episode coming soon on the Oakland, so that'll be exciting. We're getting close. I still have to order the oil pan screen. I haven't quite figured out the dimensions. I've measured it several times. I just need to pull the trigger and decide what I'm doing. Part of it was I was waiting for the TIG welder so that I could braise that in the bottom of the pan with the TIG, and not weld it, but braise it. That's into the process. I'll explain when I get there. Into the bottom of the pan with the TIG welder and so forth. So the pan is partially torn down. I got a piece of the screen for dimensioning, and I'm pretty sure I know what I want to order, but I just want to feel confident about that. Once we get the oil pan back on that, we're going to be getting some oil pressure in that motor and so forth. So valve adjustments, things like that, it's all going to come real fast. Hoping to have that episode out within a week or so. At least as far as getting everything done except for the oil pan. So anyway, there's a ton of stuff here. 69 Charger stuff, 88 pickup. We've done maybe 1 or 2 things on that. Anyway, there's a lot. And I'm just posted on my Facebook page yesterday on my personal one, a burnout of the 68 GTS, and there's going to be some more stuff coming on that car here as the weather finally starts breaking loose in April, because I want to drive that car this year. It's been parked for a long time. I just need to replace some fuel lines, and that car needs to be on the road, put a couple tires on it. So watch for that on the 68 Pro Street GTS. So thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, /mycarshop. We're posting stuff there every day. Some behind the scenes stuff, funny stuff. I try to post some jokes and memes, all mostly car related. And one more thing, and it's important, rock on.